Shrek. Did the book or movie series do it better? Let's dive in and analyze the differences between the two versions, what worked and what didn't work, and decide which version truly outshines. Shrek is one of the most beloved animated franchises of all time, but before the famous Green Ogre made his big screen debut, he first appeared in a 1990 picture book by cartoonist William Steig. With one book and 4 films and another on the way, it's no surprise that there are differences between them. In this video, we will be focusing on the first film, which is a direct adaptation of Steig's book. Let's start by comparing our main characters, Shrek, Fiona, and Donkey. First, our favorite green ogre, Shrek. There isn't much of a difference in his physical appearance between the book and the film. He's green and ugly in both. However, his wardrobe differs. In the book, he wears a purple outfit, while in the film, his clothes are more earthy toned. In the movie, Shrek doesn't need to do much to scare people since most already see him as a terrifying ogre. In the book, however, Shrek has a variety of supernatural abilities. He can shoot fire beams from his eyes, eat lightning, and breathe fire. In the film, however, they don't showcase any of his magical abilities. Instead, Shrek's strength and endurance as an ogre is what sets him apart from the humans. Next, we have Princess Fiona, one of the most famous animated princesses outside of Disney. In the film, Fiona is voiced by Cameron Diaz. She's cursed by a witch to be a human during the day and an ogress at night, with only true love being able to break the curse. To her surprise, however, Shrek's love for her transforms her into an ogress permanently. In the book, however, she's simply referred to as the princess, and there's no mention of her ever changing between forms. Unlike her animated counterpart, the princess takes pride in her ugliness and has far more confidence. She has yellow hair and doesn't have green skin, whereas Fiona in the film has red hair in both her human and ogre forms. Finally, there's Donkey, voiced by the legendary Eddie Murphy. Donkey serves as the main comic relief and often annoys Shrek as they journey through the kingdom of Duloc. His animated design was inspired by a miniature donkey named Perry who lived in California. One key difference between the book and the movie is that Donkey is much larger in the books than he is in the film, so much so that Shrek is able to ride him. While Donkey is still Shrek's sidekick in both versions, he plays a much smaller role in the books. Interestingly, Shrek calls him a jackass when he is angry at him in both the book and the film. Now, let's get into some of the major differences between the book and the movie, where the gap between the two becomes that much clearer. In the book, Shrek's entire journey starts because his parents decide to send him out into the world to do his own share of damage, so they kick him out of the swamp. In the movie, however, we don't actually meet his parents ever. We see him as a fully independent grown adult who lives on his own in the swamp. Only in Shrek the Third does Shrek even mention his father and says that he tried to eat him, which is the only time we learn anything about him. In Shrek Forever After, Shrek is entirely unaware of ogre abilities, which suggests that he didn't spend too much time with his parents. After his banishment, Shrek encounters a witch who guides him on his journey. In exchange for some lice, she promises him a fortune. She tells him to find a donkey, which will lead him to a knight, and after defeating the knight, Shrek will have the chance to marry a princess who is even uglier than he is. However, in the first film, there is no witch. It is believed that the fairy godmother in the sequel is a reimagining of the character, however. So if there is no witch in the movie, who sets Shrek on his path? In the first film, the main antagonist is Lord Farquaad of Duloc, who plays a key role in Shrek's journey. Farquaad exiles numerous fairy tale creatures, all of whom end up in Shrek's swamp. Outraged, Shrek decides to confront Farquaad and demand that he relocate the creatures. During his trip to Duloc, Shrek meets Donkey, who he rescues from Farquaad's guards. In the original book, Farquaad doesn't exist. The character was created solely for the animated film to provide a more traditional villain. This change makes sense as Shrek was more of an anti-hero in both the book and the film, but the movie makes him into a much more sympathetic character. Another significant difference is in the final battle. In the book, Shrek faces a dragon guarding Princess Fiona. The dragon is a formidable opponent, but Shrek manages to defeat it by producing a blue flame. Though the dragon is knocked unconscious, it survives the encounter. In the film, the dragon is far more menacing, and the trio barely escapes with their lives. The dragon's role is also expanded in the movies, where it becomes Donkey's love interest. Gotta love a good enemies to lovers. Even though the film adaptation changed a lot, it's not all bad. It's actually good, in fact. There are a lot of things in the movie that they did right, and one of the most impressive aspects is the visual storytelling. The fantasy realm of Shrek's story comes to life so beautifully in the animated form. The addition of many fantasy creatures also aids to the world building of the story. The voice casting choices were also incredible. I mean, come on, could you imagine anyone else voicing Shrek, Fiona, and Donkey? Mike, Cameron, and Eddie made these characters their own, and they delivered some of the most iconic voice work in animation history. But, and there's a big but here, the films often gloss over the darker elements and themes that made the book so special and iconic when it was first released. Fans of the book know that much of the story's appeal comes in the way that it fractures and transforms fairy tales. And while the film does change up our perception of fairy tales, they also sacrifice these darker elements and themes about identity and self-image, which made the story so popular in the first place. So let's summarize the strengths and weaknesses of these adaptations. One of the film's strengths is the animation style. Produced by DreamWorks Animation, the team created a magical world for viewers to feel immersed in. They designed 36 distinct locations to bring the film's world to life, which was a major achievement for DreamWorks at the time. The team also paid close attention to the color palettes and mood for every shot, enhancing the visual storytelling, which is something the original book lacked. Additionally, the film's soundtrack added to its unique feel, using pop songs and classical oldies to propel the story along. The iconic Smash Mouth song All Star became a cultural phenomenon thanks to its inclusion in the film. Another strength is the film's ability to bring to life a fantasy world full of creatures that were absent from the book. The screenwriters adapted key plot points from the book, but also introduced their own twists on well-known fairy tales like Little Red Riding Hood, Robin Hood, and Hansel and Gretel. This helped the film adopt a parody-like tone not seen in earlier animated films. The writers also included numerous cultural references beyond the fairy tales. For example, when the magic mirror offers Lord Farquaad the option to marry 3 princesses, it parodies the dating game show. Farquaad's theme park-style Kingdom of Duloc also humorously mirrors Disneyland, even parodying the It's a Small World ride with its singing puppets. However, one notable weakness is the loss of some of the darker elements in Shrek's storyline in favor of a more family-friendly film. The film portrays Shrek as more nuanced than his book counterpart. He embraces his life as an ogre, preferring his solitude and being quite reluctant to make friends. While this makes him resemble the book's Shrek to some extent, he revels in his ugliness, and the film introduces a sense of resentment over how others perceive him, particularly when he feels hurt about Princess Fiona's words, believing that she was calling him hideous and ugly. Another significant weakness is the removal of Shrek's romantic qualities, which made him stand out as an anti-hero in the book. In the book, Shrek's desire to meet the princess is motivated by his own personal interest, whereas in the film, he's largely driven by his need to please Lord Farquaad. This shift in motivation changes the character's portrayal, suggesting that the film's version of Shrek is more willing to be alone in his swamp. If the film had shown his sense of loneliness, it might have added to the emotional depth that would have made Shrek more relatable, much like he is in the book. Despite these changes, the film was a huge success and went on to win the first ever Academy Award for Best Animated Feature in 2001. So, which is better, the book or the film? I think both have their own merits. The Shrek from the book is darker and grumpier and a bit more grotesque, while the Shrek from the movie is funnier and more relatable, and has a deeper emotional arc, especially as the franchise went on. Both versions have their own charm, but you have to admit, the movie's Shrek has won a lot of hearts. So at the end of the day, it's safe to say that the Shrek film franchise has the advantage. What do you think? Do you prefer the book or the film? Did you even know the book existed? Let me know down below in the comments, and until next time, get out of my swamp.